In today's video, I will be sharing my thoughts and opinions on the Book of Boba, as well as a theory that I have as to why the Book of Boba will be slow. And also, if you're new here and you're not subscribed, feel free to subscribe. It's free, it's not going to hurt anyone, and it's going to be very, very helpful. And with that being said, enjoy today's video. At the time of recording this, it's been about 10 months since the announcement of the Book of Boba. And since then, we've gotten a lot of content such as the Bad Batch and Star Wars Visions. But there's been something that I've noticed. The community has kind of gotten angry at just normal Star Wars content. And I've noticed that the fandom and community now, all they want is just the story. They want that kind of juicy story that's all been building up in the background. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, like the cloning kind of facilities and everything that we've seen in kind of a little bit of The Mandalorian and the end of the Bad Batch. It's all just been leading to a question. I don't know how to ask that question, but I'm sure we all know that it's been leading up to something big, with the main kind of person revolving around it being Baby Yoda or Grogu. And I feel like most people now are very unhappy with kind of the content of just the story, like the characters' stories, but now they just want to know kind of that like cloning storyline. Like I've noticed that in the Bad Batch, people were very upset whenever kind of characters went on missions that didn't have to do with that. And I feel like we've almost been spoiled with that in a way. I don't know who started this, but like I just feel like the fandom really has not kind of gotten used to just getting normal content based around characters and character development, and instead anytime there's kind of content relating to character development, they just call it filler, which in my opinion is really crappy. But they do have a solid point, I guess, which I've been thinking about it like lately a lot, which is that they have like kind of a point, because there's kind of, in my opinion, there's 3 different lines to a Star Wars TV show. There is the kind of story that I was mentioning, like I can't really explain it, but the cloning kind of storyline that's all been kind of connected and adding, it's been slowly adding up through the shows that we've gotten. And then there's the actual like what the show is about, like the characters, the character development, and the story that the characters are going through. And then there's actual like filler where the characters do completely mindless things, like everything that they do doesn't show anything about them and they don't make any progress. And that's kind of a prediction. I know I said in the beginning of this video that I had a theory, but this kind of has something to do with the theory. This is just kind of a separate prediction that I have, which is something that people just aren't going to be happy with kind of the content that's going to be revolving around it, because I have a feeling like the Book of Boba isn't going to be too revealing, and it's mostly going to be kind of Boba like evolving and everything. It's gonna be a little bit of his character development and then him doing mindless missions. And I don't think we're going to be too spoiled with him kind of like any connections between Omega and him, or the Bad Batch, or just really anything, or cloning, or Grogu. I just can't see them really having that much of a connection. And I'll get into that a little bit later, but I kind of want to get back to what I think the Book of Boba is really going to be about, and kind of the stuff behind it, the filming, not the filming process, but things like that, like things along the lines of that. But I want to also get back to kind of what I like, kind of the announcement dates and everything, and how long it's been about. But I'll get to the other stuff, the more juicy theory, my main theory slash idea. One of the many things that I wanted to talk about in today's video is the announcement date for the Book of Boba. We have finally gotten the exact announcement date, which is I believe December 29th, I believe, which many people, including myself, are kind of frustrated about. And I don't know, I'm guessing it's probably the same reason why I have, but I don't know exactly why everyone else is upset, so I'm not going to speak for everyone. The reason why I personally am upset is a few things. First of all, it's because we've gotten like The Mandalorian season 1 and 2 very early. I go off of the year by the way, this is completely unrelated, but I go off of the year kind of October is getting cold, so that's whenever my year kind of starts, if that makes sense. So I feel like that's more of the beginning, and then more of the end. Like my favorite part of the year is when it's cold, so I feel like it's moving towards the crappy part, which is more like March, April, and May when it starts to get hot outside. This is completely unrelated, by the way, this is stupid, but I just just feel like personally, I would rather have it where it starts to get like at the beginning of kind of my kind of perspective of the year. And I like to have it kind of, in my opinion, I would love TV shows to come out in more October and November like The Mandalorian did. Mandalorian literally came out in October, season 1, and then November, season 2, which was really nice and incredible. And especially the fact that I got to like watch The Mandalorian both seasons before Christmas, and I'm sure no one cares about Christmas but anymore. And that is something that I feel like a lot of people are kind of disappointed about, is it's very late compared to the older or the Mandalorian season 1 and 2. It's very late compared to those. It's the end of December, kind of getting out of the holiday season, and I don't know why, but that just kind of sucks to me. And I just feel like it's coming out of like a high. I feel like I'm sure we all get this kind of feeling like a high during the holidays, October to December, and with that kind of Star Wars feeling of watching new content come out in between October and December, it's just like adding on. It's so fun, and it just gives you a special, like a very special feeling, and we're kind of getting that outside of it, which kind of sucks. And that's one of the reasons I haven't really enjoyed Star Wars that much. For whatever reason, me personally, I enjoy everything 10 times more during the holidays whenever it's cold, which is why my channel kind of died in the summer, by the way. Also, I've heard people talk about kind of theories revolving around new shows coming out a little bit later and everything, and like release dates and everything, and like of all their shows and all that kind of stuff, which I just genuinely don't like. And I don't think that they're kind of releasing the Star Wars like in order of like Disney Plus subscriptions and everything. I think I heard it like 3 people just tell me like, oh no, it's because of subscriptions, because of all this. I just feel like that's more theory stuff. I just kind of, I don't really like to predict that kind of, not predict, but I like to more go off of like what people think about the story. Like, we're getting too much kind of excitement from this TV show, so let's lay off of this for a little bit longer until we get this TV show, which has more of a dark vibe. And I just feel like that's more how they're doing it, not based off of Disney Plus subscriptions. I feel like they're actually doing it in a relatively smart way, which is kind of this sounds weird, but like almost bending people's like kind of manipulating people's emotions, like kind of to get that perfect high of watching Star Wars. And like I don't know the best way to describe it, but I'm sure you understand kind of like The Mandalorian, the 2 seasons of The Mandalorian and the content revolving around there, like in that space and everything. Got The Mandalorian, I'm sorry if I get this wrong, but we kind of got them all in the perfect amount of time. Like, there was season 7 of the Clone Wars, The Mandalorian, both of those seasons, and then The Rise of Skywalker. I feel like they all did it like kind of on purpose, like in a very nice way. They kind of jumbled it up. Alright, now it's kind of time for my theory kind of part, mixed with what I think is kind of gonna go on in the TV show of the Book of Boba, which is kind of, I have my theory mixes in with what I think is going to happen in the Book of Boba. My theory mixes in kind of with what I think is going to happen in the Book of Boba, so I'm gonna kind of try to jumble those two together and kind of trying to tell what I think is going to happen as well as my theory. So I'm gonna kind of share my theory first, which is that people aren't, like myself included, like in general, aren't going to really like the Book of Boba that much. I feel like it's almost going to be a little bit of a blow, because I feel like I was saying before, that we've gotten a lot of content, like the main storylines of connecting shows and everything, and I feel like the Book of Boba isn't going to be about that. And Boba Fett also is such a concrete character that I can't see him like really having that much character development or character evolution. I can't see that with him. So either they're going to have an extremely tough time doing that, and they're going to kind of get it done in a way where we kind of see him change somehow, which we've kind of seen him get more of a softer side, I guess, but I feel like that's always kind of been him though. But also I feel like the main kind of, this is a little bit unrelated to my theory, this is more what I think is going to be on the story side, is that they're going to kind of try to build a relationship with Fennec and Boba. Instead of having each character kind of evolve and have character development, I feel like they're going to have a relationship between Boba and Fennec, not like a romantic relationship, but more of like a kind of friends relationship. and I feel like they're gonna do that in some way. They can also bridge out in relationships with other kind of storylines, plot lines from the TV show, and in that way they can actually build up the kind of development of those plots and the relationships instead of like developing each character, which could be an upside. I don't know if we've really gotten to see that much, so I can't really kind of like give examples of that, but I that's the part that I'm not sure about if that's going to work out or not. What I can say relatively confidently, which is the show is probably going to be boring. And this is a good thing also, is we're going to get a different side, like the underground, like the underground kind of mafia drug dealer, or in Star Wars, spice dealer. I don't know if that's a thing. We're gonna get more of that side, like the underground part of Star Wars, and I feel like that's gonna be a good thing. We got to see a decent amount of that in the Bad Batch. It's not my favorite topic. Now that we saw it in the Bad Batch, I kind of realized that, you know, it's kind of a boring subject, which on paper it seems very entertaining. On the screen, not really, in my opinion. So I feel like that's gonna be an area where they're gonna kind of lose, because I feel like they're not going to really imagine what it's going to look like on the screen. They're just gonna say on paper. I feel like that's different. Like a lot of the producers and directors from their other work, I feel like that's definitely a flaw from them that I've noticed from different TV shows and everything that like Dave Filoni has done and Jon Favreau. I feel like their greatest weakness isn't seeing or isn't really imagining what it's going to be on screen, but kind of on paper. Like if you look at all of like Dave Filoni's kind of projects and Jon Favreau, their like stories and everything are amazing and fantastic on paper, but sometimes they can just be really crappy. But most of their work is good, but I feel like it's just way better on paper, which you see with like different kind of directors and everything. Like George Lucas, if you would have, back whenever Star Wars was first kind of coming out and everything, if you would have said that on like paper, it would have been completely crappy and crazy, but then you actually see it on the screen back then and it's amazing. Everyone loved it. So I feel like that's something that is going to like kind of have a downside, and it's just going to point more towards it kind of being boring. And I just feel like with all of these kind of things like coming together and everything, I feel like it's almost going to go like, people are going to think it's going to be too perfect, and then it's going to come out horrible. Like, not horrible, but I feel like people are going to higher their expectations. That's another thing, is that people are really having very high expectations for this show. Whenever people have expectations and the actual content that they're watching isn't to their expectations, then they're probably going to have a lot lower kind of rating, if that makes sense, than if they didn't have any expectations at all. So I just, once again, I feel like I just have a really bad feeling. Like everything that's coming out of the show seems like it's good, but if you dissect it and then also think from people's perspectives of it, it's going to be crappy, and it just gives me a really bad feeling, which comes down to my main theory, which is just that the Book of Boba is going to be boring. I just feel like it's like a good recipe, but it's also a recipe for disaster. I don't, once again, I've been repeating myself, but I don't have high hopes. I just have a weird feeling like it's just gonna go bad. Like the fandom's kind of going to react in a negative way to it. I'm not gonna name names, but there are certain people who have very high expectations, and then whenever they're not meted, they kind of crap on the show, and then that leads other people to crap, and then I just said that, okay, not actually crap. This is a family-friendly channel, so I'm not going to say the actual word, but it just kind of is a spiral effect, which is just more and more people, it's a snowball effect, sorry, more and more people kind of crap on the show, not literally, just figuratively, but it's a snowball effect, and like these big guys that are reacting to it and everything kind of have not bad expectations, but they're not meted. Their expectations aren't meted, so then they go off and they kind of tarnish it, and they don't have a very good opinion on it then and there, and then they decide to kind of trash on it, which leads other people to trash on it, and then it's a snowball effect. And that, in my opinion, is the main reason, well, everything else too, but I feel like everything else is going to hit on the kind of larger people who are actually reacting to it with a large audience, which is going to kind of just make the fandom not like the Book of Boba. And that, in my opinion, is why people are just gonna find it boring, myself included. I don't have very high hopes for the Book Book of Boba. I hope it turns out good, but this is just kind of what the video is going to be about. I just wanted to share my theories, and also my theory, and then also my kind of opinions on the Book of Boba. This whole video has just been kind of a mashup of just things that I think are going to happen in the Book of Boba, and that was kind of today's video, so I really hope you all enjoyed. By the way, if you like this content and this video, make sure to like and subscribe, or I will put Wookiee poop in your Bantamilk.